Hello and welcome to a bit of a dark and damp January the 1st here in beautiful Nova Scotia, although it's not feeling so beautiful at the moment. Dark and damp indeed, and January the 1st, a new year. Well, at the moment I'm actually putting a bit of mulch out, taking the chance of a relatively mild 7 degrees, relatively balmy day here in Nova Scotia, to put a bit of mulch out on my developing orchard beds, the flower beds here. Normally or often at this time of year it's already covered in snow, but we've had a bit of a warm spell, and we've had a couple of drops of snow, but that snow has, as you can see, gone away for the moment, and I think we're in for a few days of rain and things like that. So I'm out here trying to do a bit of work around the garden. I just realised that I hadn't done any sort of review of my flower gardens, my developing flower gardens all around here. I've already done the veg beds and done a bit of review of the year in the veg garden, up and down year, but my flower beds I think have been going from strength to strength this year, and I've done quite a bit of work on a few different areas that I thought I'd like to share with you. And I've developed two brand new flower beds this year, and the flower beds, my beautiful orchard, well I think it's beautiful anyway, developing orchard has been going from strength to strength this year, and I'd definitely like to show you some of the pictures and some of the sort of successes, or maybe not successes, that have gone on in this area anyway, and lots more to come. And I'd also like to go forward and show you some things I'd like to be doing in the optimistic flower garden this year. Got a few new ideas for a few new beds, and one major area, and one area, the pond, that I'd actually like to do. I've been talking about it for the last 2 years, and in fact it's been dug out for the last 2 years. I just got to make that leap and get the sort of all the rubber stuff and the liner, etc., and get that sorted. So but anyway, why don't we retire? I'm going to get a cup of tea because it's a bit chilly, and we'll have a look over 2021 and see how it's gone. See you in a second. Okay, so here we are, cup of tea in hand, just warming up. Oh, excuse the slurping. Okay, so I thought what we'd do is make a start with just having a quick look at my overall garden, the plot. It's not massive by Canadian standards, but it's very big by what I was used to in the UK. It's just under an acre. On the left-hand side, it's sort of dominated mostly by my veg area and my first greenhouse at the bottom here. South is at the bottom of the garden. And at the top eastern end is my big new greenhouse, and as you can see, my main house is in sort of the center of the plot, with a pool deck, etc., behind it. And my first flower beds are down here in the sort of southern end of the garden, and in the top right hand side is my sort of the orchard that I've been developing over the last couple of years. In the front garden, I haven't really done a lot. There is a bed on the sort of left-hand slope of the front garden, which I've got grasses and things, but I haven't done a lot to it. So that is going to be one of my new big phases. Maybe not this year, probably next. But that's the sort of the overall look of the garden. Obviously, the big grey driveway there as well. So what have I done this year? So one of my main developments has been on the southern side here of the pool. I created a brand new flower bed, which we'll come to in a moment, and up in the front garden underneath this maple tree here and conifer on the left hand side. It only shows a maple, but there's a maple and a conifer there. I've created a brand new bed there as well, so I'll be coming on to that. And then I've also done lots more
to my orchard, and that's, you know, developing lots, putting in lots more flowers, and that's coming on really nicely. And those are the three sort of areas I spent a lot of time on this year, and we'll come to that now. So if we start the review with having a look at the new bed that I created on the south side of my pool deck here. Let me get that up, the design. So here was what my general idea of what the design was going to look like. Now the whole point of the bed was, as I said, it's on the south side of my pool deck, and obviously it's about 5 foot lower, the ground, from the ground there to the actual pool deck. So I wanted quite a few high tall plants, like I've got some tall asters in there, some tall umbral type plants that I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but they smelled absolutely gorgeous. Can be a bit of a thug. It will come up on the screen later because I'll think about it, obviously. But lots of tall plants and lots of perfume plants if I possibly could have there. So I had a couple of tall frames that pyramids that I grew sweet peas up, lovely smelling sweet peas up there as well. So they were good. And generally, this is what I want to introduce, is perfume plants with tall plants at the back there, so that as I'm sort of in the pool or on the pool deck, we get a nice view out onto the flowers there, and we see them sort of coming over the railings. That's what my general plan is. And the way I was going to do it was this, it's gravel underneath. I scraped away all the gravel, and then my usual routine is put cardboard down to smother away any weeds, then horse manure and lots of compost, and line it with big rocks, because I dug loads of rocks out of that area when I built the actual swimming pool. Big units we got in that garden, so I was going to line the area with the big rocks, and then that can create a nice deep raised bed essentially, for the flower bed, and that's the start there. So let's have a little look at the sort of live action of what I created. Although what else did it? Yeah, so I wanted, so on the side here I want lavender, and again, like I said, a general perfumed plants if possible, and tall.
So as you can see here, this is me at the very start. I had a small bed there on the left hand side, and this is a sort of basic look of where the square was going to be. And there's some of the big rocks that we had, and I've literally put the rocks in place, some of the compost and some of the manure that was there. And again, this is generally what we're looking at for the design. So the garden, frankly, exceeded all my expectations, and it grew just really well. At the front there, as you can see, I've got agastache, and that was beautiful, lovely smell, and that grew long flowering, and just really good. As you can see behind there was the sweet peas, and also the long, very tall cosmos. And at the back was the valerian, although in this picture it's actually gone over.
So one of the adjustments I had to make was the fact that I decided to put some solar heating for my pool, and this was the most obvious place, being the south side of the actual pool. So I had to put that frame up, and I did have some asters that were going to be growing there, so I had to take them out. But as you can see there in the foreground as well, one of the great stars of this early season of this bed were the lupins, and these pink lupins, as well as the purple lupins were next to it. But I actually loved the pink lupins. They were absolutely stunning, and they flowered for a long period. As you can see, the fact that behind here at the moment there's no solar. So, you know, they started early, and it took me a while to get the solar up, and they continued to flower for ages. And real beautiful flowers, and I loved the bicolour, the dark pink and then the light pink. They were just absolutely stunning. And then I cut them down, and they flowered again later on. So they were real beautiful stars of the early season in that bed, and you can see again how early it is. There's nothing really growing to the right of it, and so they were a real good input into that garden. And these were wild. So they came up in one part of my garden, and I just moved them to here, and they absolutely loved it there. So some other stars of that early season, sort of May, June time in that bed area, were obviously the beautiful iris and the oriental poppies with, I can't remember what these are in the back here, but as you can see again, more beautiful lupins and some aquilegia, which I think I have a better one. Literally, the lupins just went absolutely bonkers. I had just phenomenal amount of them, and as you can see, some of the other staples, the very dark aquilegia that I have, really playing off well with the beautiful oriental poppies. And then by mid-season, we've got the cosmos, the feathery foliage of the cosmos with the beautiful pink flowers, some monarda, liatris on the right-hand side, the agastache again still coming beautiful. At the back here, the asters were growing yet to show themselves, but the sunflowers had started to flower, and it really was an absolutely stunning bed considering that it was my first year growing it. And as you can see, a second flush of lupins here, smaller ones obviously, but again, welcome to join the party. Really pleased with that bed overall for its first year. So the other big area that I completed design wise this year was underneath the bed, underneath this maple and conifer. I haven't got an actual design for it, so we'll go straight to the live action.
So what I did here was essentially raise the canopy of the conifer up so that we have some nice light and being able to get into that area, and take some of the branches away from the actual maple, and then I've got an area that I can actually plant in. As you can see, I had loads of rocks but at the wrong end of the garden. Quite tough going getting them all up there, and this is the sort of bed after I created it with the rocks all the way around. Again, cardboard to stop the weeds getting through, compost on top, and this was the sort of finished bed, and I was pretty pleased with that. Looking good so far.
So this is what the bed looks like now in January. Obviously there's not a lot or nothing really growing there. Just you can see some foxgloves ready to sprout up next year. I've planted the bed up with lots of foxgloves because they like the edges of a sort of woodlandy bit, which is what I want this to sort of look like. Foxgloves, and I've got lots of the creeping phlox, only small here at the moment in between these rocks, but they will brighten up really nicely and grow quite strongly over the next couple of years, and hopefully carpet this in early spring with pinks and purples, etc., like the rest of the rocks that I have in the different beds around the garden. I've got hostas in here and some geraniums, and for springtime I have planted lots of my favourite, the plant I miss the most since I've come over to Canada, the bluebell. And you know, in sort of April and May time in the woods of the UK, we have carpets of beautiful bluebells, et voila, and beautiful smell, and I do miss that. So I want to sort of try and create a mini bluebell area, you know, just in that little bed there. Hopefully they'll grow, and we'll see what it's like. So lots of bluebells, also another edge of the sort of woodland plant, lots of snowdrops as well, so hopefully they'll come on, and that beautiful delicate white flower, even in, you know, even when it's poking up through the snow, so hopefully they'll grow as well. and lots of daffodils, etc. I have planted up. And so that is that bed. You know, it didn't grow a lot of flowers this year. I've got I put some foxgloves and other stuff in there, but I'm hopefully in the next couple of years that should really come on with the bulbs in early spring, and then I'll add the different flowers throughout the summer over the next couple of years, and hopefully you'll see the results if you stay with me and watch on. So that was the other sort of big project, and it was big in the fact that I had to move all of those rocks from one end of the garden up to the other, which was pretty hard work, and dig all of the compost, etc., and put that in there to make that again that sort of raised bed to enable me to plant into. But that should hopefully develop in the next couple of years.
So I mentioned the planting the phlox up in the video just then, and that was another one of the great successes of the garden, was the phlox all over the garden, really coming out in early season. And here you can see it. I'll let it just grow out into the, well, what is a sort of dodgy lawn, but this is towards the end of this area. But again, lots and lots of beautiful purples and pinks all across the garden in early season, and I'll just let it get on with itself around this area here, and it just provides that beautiful colour. And here against the rocks, this is where it's at its best, when it actually, you know, you've got it against the rocks, and you can keep it in check, a nice good trim in after it flowers, and then let it flower beautifully like that, and it will come on nicely.
So those of you that have followed me over the last couple of years, probably sick of me going on about this area here, but up in the top right hand corner, my favourite area of the garden really, other than the veg patch, flower wise, is the orchard. And I've been developing that over the last couple of years. Let me get a picture or a design. And this was my sort of design for it. And my real inspiration for the design came from Monty on Gardener's World and his orchard, and watching a program that one day, and having this vivid memory of an orchard in my grandmother's orchard down in Hassocks in her back garden when I was a kid. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this. So I've been developing this over the last couple of years. I've got 5 apple trees, actually 4 main apple trees now. That one has died. I'm going to replace that with a pear tree. And I also have 2 step-over apple trees here, which are wonderful little additions. I've got this, what I call the secret garden area. It's not exactly to scale this, because this big bed here is actually bigger than this area here. So I've got developing these lots of different flower beds. I've built this covered seat, and this is a raised bed area here, and these seats haven't been built yet, but I've just put the gravel down for the paths this summertime, and just about finishing it off now. So really, again, orchard, and I've just been developing the different flower beds as I sort of go along here. These are red cornus dogwoods that I took from cuttings about 3 years ago now. One of the first videos I ever did was taking the cuttings, and they're coming on absolutely beautifully now, and looking really good in these frosty times, etc. And I'm just using all the different flowers that I'm taking cuttings from, etc., trying to cut down, because it's quite a big area to plant up. And obviously now with my greenhouses now using seeds to grow, I grew the agastache and some of the other plants, lots of the other plants I've grown from seed now, which has been a real bonus and very cheap. The Shasta daisies that I have here. So let's have a little look at the live part, so you can actually see the garden, how that's looking, and how that's come on.
So this was the orchard, very first, just one apple tree and a load of rubble. Lots of things still to do. This is it now. You can see at the end there where I'm going to put a new seat there. This is the main bed. Here are the red dogwoods. Moving round to the secret garden, I call it, with the covered love seat. And this is the last bed, one apple tree there. So some of the themes of this back border, and especially the secret garden, are as much as possible trying to keep white flowers and cool greens, so that even on a warm day you can feel cool and calm.
So earlier in the year, in this sort of secret garden back of the orchard border, we have these beautiful iris and the start of some lovely tall asters coming up, and then up comes this beautiful herbaceous clematis, lovely bronze sort of new foliage, and then that goes into a really beautiful white flower. Where are we with this white flower? As you can see, the bronze foliage and the white flower. And then again in this area we've got some white foxgloves and some hollyhocks in the background there, some purple foxgloves sneaked in there, but all sorts of that beautiful, and that bronze foliage that keeps that sort of cool, calm feel in this area. And then later on in the season we have these absolutely stunning lilies, big white Asiatic lilies, and they go up to literally about 3 or 4 foot. Where are we? Sort of lots of them on there. I had a few problems with lily beetles. You might be able to see the sort of little bites out of the foliage, etc. But I tried to keep on top of it every morning, out there having a look, see if I can get the little blackguards, and it seemed to be okay. And here is the tool. Where are we? Don't seem to. And as you can see, they were this tall. Nice, big, tall plants. Beautiful. And what else we got here? Some Shasta daisies coming up, the white Shasta daisies, and some white liatris just on the edge here. So lots of white plants in this beautiful area. And I sneaked in a few pink cosmos, but I love the feathery foliage. Again, there's some white liatris at the back there, but I love that feathery foliage. Just again, keeping that sort of calm, beautiful feel in this area. I used to love just sitting there and looking out onto the orchard with these sort of plants all around me. And then later on the seasons, we've got the grasses coming up, and a different feel with their colours, etc. But really pleased overall with the secret garden area and that end of the garden. What have we got to finish? And you can't beat a beautiful photograph like that with the silvers of the grasses. There's some more, the white iris, the valerian starting to grow up tall there, and job's a good one.
So the main beds in the orchard again were awash with the beautiful lupins. I had like a river of lupins flowing through, and foxgloves and agastache was in there, and I had a triangle of sweet peas, etc. And then in the late summer I had lots of beautiful sunflowers, especially the burnt orange type sunflowers that really do look opulent, I think is the phrase. So really happy all round with the orchard, from early springtime, daffodils, which I really didn't get a chance to show you, all the way through the summer. Just really good, and looking forward to next year's growth. So that is just about it for my review of 2021. I'll give a couple of, I'll say, honourable mentions to on the pool deck, which I don't often go that much. The banana plants that I grew in pots this year were absolutely spectacular. That, you know, that bronze foliage, big glossy leaves were really fantastic, and, you know, giving that tropical feel to the pool deck on a nice warm day, as well as the absolutely what turned out to be huge castor bean plant, which was really good. Big massive leaves, as you can see, and they were just all very great additions, good additions to the pool deck, as well as these beautiful little geraniums that I did from cuttings earlier on in the year. And also I'd like to mention the black-eyed Susans. Later on in sort of August, September, October, they flowered for ages and ages, and there was just a beautiful field mass of them, and they were a stunning display, making me smile every time I walked around that part of the garden. Lots more to do. That's it for 2021. I'm not going to do what I'm going to do in 2022. It's been a bit of a long video, this one now, so you're probably on tenterhooks to get off, but I've got lots of projects for this year to be going on with, so hopefully you'll join me in another video, and I'll show you what I'm going to be up to when it warms up a bit and I can get my spade in the ground. But I hope you enjoyed my review of 2021 and some of the beautiful flowers that I was able to grow, and hopefully I'll be able to grow this year, and hopefully you'll join me and we'll have some fun in the optimistic garden and enjoy the journey of seeing how it develops as we go along. Happy New Year.